Hey guys, techmadeezy, and thank you so much for clicking on our video today. Guys, we've got them, the Delta Pro and the new Delta Pro Ultra. And guys, let me tell you, these are two beasts, these power stations. They're both great. Even the Delta Pro still to this day. But the Delta Pro Ultra just raised the bar big time. And again, these are still slightly different. Someone that wants the Delta Pro might not want the Delta Pro Ultra. So in this video, I'm going to be comparing these two beast power stations. I'm going to end up covering detailed specs. I'm going to cover UPS versus EPS. I'm going to be covering ways to charge these power stations, connectivity, and even off-grid options, expansion, and home backup options. So why don't we go ahead and get this party started? All right, guys, I'm going to bring up a slide so you can see what we're covering in the video. So we're going to be covering the specs. We're going to be covering UPS and EPS. We're going to be covering ways to charge, plus some huge solar differences, connectivity, even off-grid options, expansion, home integration, and power backup options, and additional home backup options. All right, guys, we're going to start off with detailed specs. We're going to be skipping some sections because down the road, we're going to be covering them in a little more detail. You'll see what I'm talking about. So let's first talk a little bit about power. So the Delta Pro is 3,600 watts with a 7,200 watt surge. Now the Delta Pro Ultra is 7,200 watts with a 10,800 watt surge for about 8 seconds, or I think it's 10 seconds to be honest with you. Now, 120 volt and 240 volt, let's talk about that. So the Delta Pro is 120 volt as is, but there are some solutions to make it 240 volt we're going to talk about later. But the Delta Pro Ultra is not only 120 volt, but it is 240 volt as it sits, depending on the port you use. All right, battery chemistry, they're both lithium iron phosphate. And, they've got the 3,000 cycles, and then they go to 80% plus. Battery capacity is very different. Now, as you know, the Delta Pro has a battery, and then they sell the battery separately. So the Delta Pro is 3,600 watt hours. And then the battery is 3,600 watt hours. The Delta Pro Ultra, obviously you have to have a battery to use it, but the inverter itself is on the top, and the battery on the bottom is 6,000 watt hours. Is that crazy? But also, let me tell you, that thing is heavy. Now, we're going to talk about battery expansion later on, and we're going to talk about UPS and EPS coming up very soon. Let's go ahead and start talking about outlets. We'll start off with the Delta Pro. So the Delta Pro has 420 volt, 20 amp AC outlets, and then it's got one NEMA 120 volt, 30 amp outlet. But now when we look at the Delta Pro Ultra, you'll see here that we've got 420 volt, 20 amp outlets here. And then we've got a NEMA TT30, okay, 120 volt, 30 amp. And then we actually have a NEMA L14. This is 120 volt or 240 volt, 30 amp outlet. All right, that's where you get the 240 right from this machine. Now, let's take some time and go over USB. So let me close these guys real quick. Come on over to the Delta Pro, and you've got two USB Type A's, two USB Type-A quick charge. These are fast charge. And then you've got two USB 100 watt. These are USB Type-C 100 watt. Now, you do have USB on the Delta Pro Ultra, but they've given you just two USB Type-A's. All right, so you've got two USB Type-A's over here. I don't think these are quick charge, but I will correct myself on the screen if they are. And you also have two USB Type-C 100 watt right here on the top. All right. All right, now let's look at the side of the Delta Pro. And you've got a couple of outlets here. You've got an Anderson, which is really nice to have, 12 volt, 30 amp, 360 watt max. You've got a car charger right here. And you even have two barrel plugs. These are 12 volt, 3 amp, DC 5521 barrel ports. Now, on the side of the Delta Pro Ultra, you do have Anderson. So you've got that there. And that is a 12.6 volt, 30 amp, maximum of 378 watts. But as you can see, there's no car charger, and there are no more barrel ports. Now we're going to cover solar later on, so be prepared for that. But I wanted to talk a little bit about fans. So the Delta Pro Ultra actually has 4 fans in it to keep it cool, which is nice. But they actually upped the game on the Delta Pro Ultra. This thing has a new system now called an anti-gravity cooling system. Now it's not just more fans, there's more to it. This thing has 6 dedicated fans, but I'm going to bring up an image so you can actually see all the complexities of what they've done to keep this cool. And believe me, that actually adds to how quiet this thing is. Let's take a moment and talk about cost, warranty, and weight. And then we're going to move on. So let's talk about cost on the Delta Pro. So MSRP is $3,699, but this thing is on sale right now in December 2023 under $3,000. Now the battery MSRP is $2,799, and that is on sale under $2,000 as I speak. Now, as far as pricing for the Delta Pro Ultra, pricing isn't available yet, but check the timestamps. I actually am going to be talking about a super early bird coupon where you can actually save $1,500. Now, let's talk about warranty. Well, the good news is the warranty is 5 years on the Delta Pro and 5 years on the Delta Pro Ultra. Now let's talk about weight. Guys, these are heavy machines, but the battery technology is phenomenal. So the Delta Pro weighs 99 pounds or 45 kilograms. Now the Delta Pro battery weighs 84 pounds or 38 kilograms. Now, as we look at the Delta Pro Ultra, the inverter, the top piece, right, is 70 pounds or 31.75 kilograms. The battery is definitely a lot heavier. Because it's 6,000 watt hours, the battery is 116.4 pounds or 52.79 kilograms. All right, now let's move on. It's time for us to talk about UPS and EPS. So, let's talk about UPS and EPS. So the Delta Pro actually has EPS, which is emergency power supply. Now, the reason why they can't really call it a UPS is because it's not as fast. So the Delta Pro, and honestly, we're talking milliseconds here, but the Delta Pro has an EPS that's 30 milliseconds or less, all right, if you use it as an EPS, which most people are used to UPS, which is uninterrupted power supply. Now, this is a little unfair, but the Delta Pro Ultra actually has 2 inverters. Yep, 2 inverters. Check that out. And so they actually have 2 UPSs. Now, one of them is 20 milliseconds or less, and I'll show you the outlets that are dedicated to that. And then there's actually a few outlets that are dedicated to 0 milliseconds. That's right. These are online all the time when the power station is on. 0 milliseconds. Let's take a moment and check these 2 outlets out. So first of all, you actually have, as you can see here, labels. So these 2 120 volt, 20 amp are online, and these are backup. Again, these are going to be 20 milliseconds or faster. But these are online, and they're going to be 0 milliseconds. That's going to be phenomenal if you have to plug a server in or a laptop because you don't want to lose data. So that's really amazing. And again, right here, the NEMA TT30 is actually online. So if you plug in anything in here, you've got 0 milliseconds. This thing, again, has 2 inverters. It is sick. Let's take a moment and talk about ways to charge both of these. Let's start off with the Delta Pro, and then I'll go and talk about the Delta Pro Ultra. So the Delta Pro via AC outlet, right, can be charged at 1800 watts, 120 volt, or 240 volt, 3000 watts. Another way you can charge the Delta Pro is actually with an EV charger, all right? And you use the infinity port in the front to do that. And as you can see, we've already got this adapter that you would buy separately, slightly pushed into the infinity port. And we did a video on this. If you'd like to see it, I'll put an image up real quick, and I'll put a link in the description. But this is the J1772, and that goes right there on the side of the Delta Pro. Pretty cool. Now, in the back of the Delta Pro is actually the XT60i port, as you can see right here. Now, this is used for car charging, and it's also used for solar. Now, the Delta Pro supports 1600 watts of solar, but if you get 2 of these and you connect it to a smart home panel, each of them can do 1600 watts, which is 3200 watts of solar. Lastly, the Delta Pro can actually be charged with a generator. You just want to make sure the generator has a pure sine wave outlet. We did a video on the EcoFlow smart generator. We'll put an image up right in front of you, and we'll put a link in the description if you want to check that out. Now, getting back to the Delta Pro Ultra, via AC, you can charge this 1800 watts, 120 volt, or 240 volt, 3000 watts. And guess what? This can even be charged via EV charger. Let me show you how. All right, this is called the EV Extreme adapter. And as you can see, on one side, it's got J1772, and on the other, it's got that port that's needed to connect to the power in and out port on the side of the Delta Pro Ultra. As you can see here, this is the power in and out port. You just drop this down, and this actually slides away so it gets out of the way. And you simply plug this in. All right. It'll lock in place. You've got a button to release it there. But now you're ready to go and EV charge this if you want to. Now you'll notice that you can't car charge the Delta Pro Ultra, right? I mean, this thing can't really be put in a car. I mean, if it could, I don't know. It's pretty heavy, okay? But if you want to charge this with a generator, and again, just make sure it's a pure sine wave generator, you actually have a plug that gives you the adapter that you need. Again, simply take it, push it in so it locks in place, and now you're ready to rock and roll with the generator adapter plug. Let's take a moment and talk about solar with the Delta Pro Ultra. So the Delta Pro Ultra actually has 2 MPPT solar charge controllers. One is low voltage and the other one is high voltage. Now, the low voltage, if you're going to use ground solar, like folding solar panels, stuff like that, you probably would use low voltage, I would think. You don't have to. And then high voltage, maybe you want to do rooftop solar. It has more capability. So let's start off talking about low voltage solar. So in the front here, you're going to see that they actually have a port here that is kind of different. Now, this is actually a CP30, all right? And this actually will connect to MC4. It supports 1600 watts, 30 to 150 volt, 15 amp, all right? Now, if you're going to use the high voltage, let me show you that, and we'll talk a little bit about that. All right, we're here on the side now, and you can see here high PV port. If you pull this down, you can push it right in. You have an on and off switch, first of all, and you want this off until you connect your cables. But here, this is the high voltage side. It supports 4,000 watts of solar. All right, 80 volt to 450 volt, 15 amp. Pretty darn cool. Let's take some time and talk about connectivity. All right, so let's start off with the Delta Pro. The Delta Pro has Bluetooth and it has Wi-Fi. Now, if you control it via Bluetooth, obviously you have a certain range. But if you control it via Wi-Fi, you can use the EcoFlow app to remotely control the units. Turn off AC, turn on, USB, see your battery percentage, stuff like that. Really, really cool. Now, the Delta Pro Ultra also has Bluetooth and it has Wi-Fi. So you get the same benefits. But one thing they did, if you ever want to be off-grid completely, is you actually can buy an optional 4G dongle that's coming out, and that would plug right into here. All right, as you can see, it says 4G module. So that'll plug in, and I'll throw a picture on the screen so you can see what it looks like. Now, by the way, if you're interested in picking up the Delta Pro Ultra, I'm going to put a link in the description. Right now, it's December 2023. This is launching next year. It's just around the corner. If you want to save $1,500 off of this unit, basically you spend $300 and you get yourself what they call a super early bird coupon, and you end up saving $1,500. I'll put a link in the description if you want to take advantage of that. All right, let's talk expansion. Now I'm going to start off, just so you'll know, showing you how the batteries connect on both of these units so you can actually see it. And then I'm going to bring up some slides and go over different scenarios. All right, I'm going to start off with the Delta Pro. But when you buy an extra battery, there's actually a compartment on the top of the battery. Just crack it open, and there's your cable. All right, in order to connect your cable, you have to be behind your battery and your Delta Pro. As you can see here, you've got a battery port. Just open this up. All right, there's your battery port. Now, on the Delta Pro, you have two battery ports. You've got battery port number 1, battery port number 2. Now, can you just connect this battery to any port? Sure. But if you want to update the battery, make sure the battery is connected to battery port number 1. And when you're doing a software update, it'll update the Delta Pro and the battery. And let me show you how the cable connects real quick. So here's the cable. And if you own a Delta Pro, you probably wish this cable had more flexibility, or maybe if they came out with one that wasn't as stiff, because once you connect this cable, as you can see, it takes up some room, and this is really stiff. So you take one end, which, by the way, I'll show you the tip, and this here actually goes, it lifts up, you can see there. So you've got this little button, and what you want to do is you're going to take it, all right, and you're going to push it in, and then you hear that click. It actually grabs onto a little slot right there. And then the same thing here, by the way. So you see this little slot up here? Sorry about the camera banging, but you see that little slot? That really grabs this little piece up here, all right, to lock in place. So again, take it and push it inside. And now your battery is connected, but look at this cable. This is fun. Let me go ahead and take the Delta Pro Ultra and show you how the battery cable connects. Once you get your Delta Pro Ultra and you stack your Delta Pro inverter on top of your battery, you're going to take your battery cable, as you can see here, and you basically connect it on this side. And then when you get another battery, you actually connect it on this side. And these, again, are very simple. They've got these nice little buttons. They're not hard to connect at all. And all you do is just push it in a little bit on both. Don't rush, right? And you hear 2 clicks. And there you go. You're connected. And then you're going to put your other battery on the bottom and connect it with this one. And that's it. So let's talk more about expansion. So as you can see, the Delta Pro with one battery, well, that's 7,200 watt hours or 7.2 kilowatt hours. And this big boy is 6,000 watt hours or 6 kilowatt hours. So let's go into some Delta Pro expansion capabilities, and then we'll go to Delta Pro Ultra. So here is a scenario for expansion. You can connect 2 batteries to a Delta Pro, and that would give you 10.8 kilowatt hours or 10,800 watt hours. Now let's look at another expansion scenario. Let's say you want to double your voltage and double your wattage. Well, if you use the double voltage hub, you can connect 2 Delta Pros together, and then you can actually put 2 batteries on each of the Delta Pros. This will give you 21,600 watt hours or 21.6 kilowatt hours. But again, when using the double voltage hub, you're going to get 240 volts, 7,200 watts. But keep in mind, you can't use the AC outlets on the Delta Pros. They're disabled because the double voltage hub gets connected to the infinity ports in the front. So you're actually going to use the ports on the double voltage hub. And let me show you a picture and a close-up of the double voltage hub. There it goes. Now here's another scenario. What if you get the smart home panel, all right, and you want to connect 2 Delta Pros, and each Delta Pro has 2 batteries. Again, 21,600 watt hours or 21.6 kilowatt hours. All right. And if you want even more capability, you can use 2 smart generators. All right. So instead of putting 2 batteries on a Delta Pro, you would actually put 1 battery and 1 smart generator. And on the other Delta Pro, another battery and another smart generator, and you can go to 25 kilowatt hours. Let's now talk about the Delta Pro Ultra. So we already showed you, right, that the unit with the battery is 6,000 watt hours or 6 kilowatt hours, right? You got the inverter on the top and the battery on the bottom. Now, you can take that unit and put 5 batteries underneath it. And that would give you 30,000 watt hours or 30 kilowatt hours. Again, each battery is 6,000 watt hours. So there is one scenario. Here's another scenario. Let's say you want to max this out. You can take 3 Delta Pro Ultra inverters, each of them having 5 batteries for a total of 15 batteries, and have 90,000 watt hours or 90 kilowatt hours. Now, this would require the smart home panel. in order to do this, because the smart home panel can handle 3 inverters, and each inverter can have 5 batteries. That is insane. 90,000 watt-hours or 90 kilowatt-hours. Now here are some additional possibilities. Let's talk about this. So let's say you want a Delta Pro and you want to connect the Delta Pro to your home using a transfer switch. Well, as you can see here, this is a kit that is sold, and I will include a link in the description. And you can buy a Delta Pro and the transfer switch and the cable. And you can get 3,600 watts with a surge capability of 7,200 watts. This is 120 volt, 30 amp. Now let's look at this in a different lens. Let's say you want 2 Delta Pros. You can take 2 Delta Pros with the double voltage hub. Now you've got 120 and 240 volt, 30 amp. And you're basically going to still use a transfer switch, but you're combining the power of 2 Delta Pros. Think about that. 7,200 watts, 240 volt, connected to your home, and you can still add batteries onto this, which is amazing. Now, with the Delta Pro Ultra, yeah, you can go out and get a transfer switch. 7,200 watts, 120 or 240 volt, 30 amp. Is that pretty cool or what? But what if you need more than 30 amp? Well, guess what? There is an opportunity to connect 2 Delta Pro units. You're still going to get 7,200 watts, 120 or 240 volt, but it's 50 amp by combining both of them. And let me show you the actual unit, because I have one and it's coming out soon. So let's take a look at the 50 amp hub. So you say you need 50 amp service. Well, go ahead and buy yourself 2 Delta Pro Ultras. And here is the 50 amp hub. And you connect this cable here, and you connect it to the side of the Delta Pro Ultra, and you connect this cable, and you connect it here and to another Delta Pro Ultra, and you now have 50 amp, 120 volt, 240 volt. And there's your power button. Is that cool? And here is the double voltage hub for the Delta Pro. We did a video on this. We'll put an image up on the screen. We actually did a test. We plugged in our electric dryer, which is 240 volts. It's amazing how many watts an electric dryer uses. I actually started hanging some clothes in the backyard because I saw how many watts it was using. I'll put an image up on the screen, and I'll put a link in the description if you want to see that video. But guys, I really hope the information in this video was helpful. And if it was, take a moment and hopefully give us a thumbs up. We hope we've earned that from you. And by the way, if you want to follow us on social media, we'll put our social media up right on top. All right, you can follow us up there. We even have another channel. It's called My Tesla Journey. We got a Tesla in January. We've got almost 13,000 miles. So we started doing some accessory videos, but we're going to be putting up videos on how you go from a gas car to a Tesla. And we're working on those videos. But if you want to actually join our channel and subscribe, go ahead and look us up at My Tesla Journey. By the way, if you'd like to, subscribe to our channel here at techmadeezy, we'll put a round logo right there on the left-hand side. If you want, click on that, and you can subscribe to our channel. And I will put a box with some power station reviews on the right side if you'd like to check that out. Guys, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.